talk about one of the main conflicts in the 19th century in Europe, which were the Napoleonic Wars. It started from 1799 to 1815. It started with the coup d'etat from Napoleon, in which he set out the main government of France and established his own consulate. He was named as the first consul of France. Then, what happened? It was the Napoleonic Wars, a war between France and other European countries like Russia, Great Britain, or Austria. And well, it started with the Second Coalition War, in which France defeated Russia and set out from the coalition. Then in the 1800, France went to Switzerland and the Alps, and France defeated Austria. Then it was finished and European countries were defeated by France except Great Britain, and it was the only country that stand out. Napoleonic War followed from the First Coalition War, which was from 1793 to 1797, in which this war get all the European countries to a bloody struggle, and also influenced and affected countries such as Egypt and American countries, because European countries were in trouble, and that get us to a problem to American countries.
The politics of the 19th century were, in a word, terrible. During the first half, monarchy ruled supreme. The world belonged to the imperialist countries such as France, England, Russia. But after a while, they started to decline. The colonies revolted, such as New Spain and Haiti, making certain countries with territorial holdings in America start to lose their power over trade and fortune. For the most part, it was a time in which the Industrial Revolution provided ample opportunities to mistreat workers. Slavery was still around, so there's that. And of course, everyone's favorite thing to talk about during the 19th century in Europe, Napoleon. After Napoleon, the world was changed. It was no longer an age of empires. Hashtag not sponsored. Truth is, imperialism simply declined after Napoleon came into power. After the Congress of Vienna, the Quadruple Alliance was settled between Russia, Prussia, Great Britain, and, of course, the second half of the 19th century was a different story entirely. Empires ceased to have the same flair and power that they used to have. After the Congress of Vienna and the establishment of the Quadruple Alliance between Austria, Prussia, Russia, and Great Britain, there seemed to be plenty of control. Monarchies were set in place, the only true government allowed by these few nations. But afterwards, thanks in part to nationalism and many other factors set in motion, the unification of Germany and Italy changed things. More and more countries started to adapt to the liberalist views that were set in motion by the Enlightenment. As more and more countries simply ceased to focus on being kings of the world and more on kings of their own country, things started to improve. Social reform, all about. By the end of the 19th century, slavery was abolished in nearly everywhere. For the most part, Western and Eastern Europe got along despite a couple of differences, and there was a relative peace, thanks in part due to the relinquishment of the idea that monarchy was the only way to go. And so, afterwards, peace, prosperity, and an industrial revolution flourished all over Europe. Until, that is, World War I. But that's a story for another partial documentary.
Weaponry also evolved at its much lower rate than the ideas of the nation at arms and competition. By the end of the period, most European armies had reflamed, and the British made the first large-scale use of combat rockets in an European war. The period starting with bright uniforms, but at the end the period had camouflage uniforms, had become more commonly, and skirmishers, the beginnings of military camouflage. The period also saw the British Army under the leadership of the Duke of Wellington become renowned as the best in Europe. The religion that evolved the most in the 19th century in Europe was Christianity. They were evangelical revivals in some largely Protestant countries, and later the effects of modern biblical scholarship on the churches. Liberal or modernist theology was one consequence of this. In Europe, the Roman Catholic Church strongly opposed liberalism, and Georgia culture was launched in Germany, Italy, Belgium, and France. It strongly emphasized personal piety. In Europe, there was general move away from religious observance and belief in Christian techniques, and a move towards secularism. In Protestantism, pietistic revivals were common. Coalition with Bonaparte, absent in Egypt, fighting the British, a new coalition formed against the French in 1798. This consisted of Russia, Great Britain, Austria, Portugal, the Ottoman Empire, and the Kingdom of Naples. The fighting took place mainly in the northern in Italy and Switzerland, with the Russians under General Alexander Suvornov being successful at first undoing the damage done by Napoleon's victories in Italy. The French defeated the Russians, who pulled out the coalition. Bonaparte offered peace, but the coalition refused, and in 1800s, he crossed the Alps and defeated the Austrians at the Battle of Marengo in 1800s. Other French victories followed, and soon only Britain remained the stand against the French. After a failed attack in Holland, Britain made a peace in 1802. This didn't last so long. In 1805, the War of the Third Coalition broke out, with Britain joined by Russia, Austria, and Sweden. Napoleon defeated the Austrians in 1805, and finally at Austerlitz in 1805, known as the Battle of the Three Emperors. Once against the coalition reformed, this time with Prussia, but without Austria in 1806.
The war, it lasted 3 years, from 1853 to 1856. So this was basically a fight between Russia, France, and Britain. And it was because of the Orthodox, that they wanted the Russians to protect the Orthodox of the Ottoman Sultan, and also because of the great powers in the Middle East, and it took place in the Crimean Peninsula.